In 1789, the French Revolution shocked Europe and appalled its remaining monarchies. With the execution of Louis XVI and his Queen Marie Antoinette in 1792, tensions exploded into outright war that would rage intermittently for the next 23 years. The dynamic and aggressive French armies fought for the survival of the Republic and the expansion of France's borders against successive coalitions of allied nations determined to curtail French power and crush the existential threat of the Revolution. Then, in 1799, a hitherto unknown general named Napoleon Bonaparte took power in France and set about building himself an empire. Britain was a leading member in every coalition against France, and its redcoats fought the French in Flanders, Egypt, and the Caribbean, as well as waging satellite conflicts in India and North America. The British Army's greatest commitment, though, was in the Iberian Peninsula, where from 1808 to 1814 they fought a bitter, protracted war alongside the Spanish and Portuguese to drive out the occupying French forces. In the spring of 1812, an Anglo-Portuguese army commanded by the Duke of Wellington laid siege to the immense Spanish border fortress at Badajoz. Capturing the fortress would open the way for Wellington's latest strike into Spain, and on the night of the 6th of April they stormed the city. The defences were formidable, and the French well prepared. More than 5,000 Allied soldiers were killed or wounded before the French defence finally collapsed, and as the victorious troops poured into the city, they unleashed a drunken storm of looting, rape, and murder upon the Spanish population. Rifleman Edward Costello of the 95th was among the perpetrators. Though clad in rifle green rather than red, he gives a vivid account of the violence from the perspective of the mob.
The confusion and uproar that prevailed in the town may be better imagined than described. The shouts and oaths of drunken soldiers in quest of more liquor, the reports of firearms and crashing in of doors, together with the appalling shrieks of hapless women, might have induced anyone to have believed himself in the regions of the damned. We entered a house which was occupied by a number of men of the 3rd Division. One of them, immediately on perceiving me wounded, struck off the neck of a bottle of wine with his bayonet and presented it to me. I had not long been seated at the fire when I heard screams for mercy from an adjoining room. On hobbling in, I found an old man, the proprietor of the house, on his knees, imploring mercy of a soldier who had levelled his musket at him. I, with difficulty, prevented the man from shooting him, as he complained that the Spaniard would not give up his money. I immediately informed the wretched landlord in Spanish, as well as I was able, that he could only save his life by surrendering his cash. Upon this he brought out, with trembling hands, a large bag of dollars from under the mattress of the bed. These, by common consent, were immediately divided among us. I must confess that I participated in the plunder, and received about $26 for my own share. As soon as I had resumed my seat at the fire, a number of Portuguese soldiers entered and a regular scuffle ensued between our men and the Portuguese, until one of the latter being stabbed by a bayonet. The rest retired, dragged the wounded man with them. After thus ejecting the Portuguese, the victors, who had by this time got tolerably drunk, proceeded to ransack the house. Unhappily, they discovered the 2 daughters of the old patron, who had concealed themselves upstairs. They both were young and very pretty. The mother, too, was shortly afterwards dragged from her hiding place. Without dwelling on the frightful scene that followed, it may be sufficient to add that our men, more infuriated by drink than before, again seized upon the old man, and insisted upon a fresh supply of liquor.
The sack of Badajoz lasted 3 days, and despite threats, not one man was executed for his part in the atrocities. Wellington's army marched on, and just over a year later drove the French from Spain for good. In 1814, with Wellington in southern France and the armies of Russia, Austria and Prussia at the very gates of Paris, Napoleon was forced to abdicate. The French monarchy was restored and the former emperor exiled to the Mediterranean island of Elba. Peace was celebrated throughout Europe, but there was a final bloody postscript still to come.
'tis his name.